afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. For more than 25 years, the UVM Extension Master Gardener program has had positive impacts on people and communities around our state. And now Master Gardener is helping Vermonters with another job. It's the practice of composting. While some Vermonters already compost their own food scraps, it's a brand new concept to others. The bottom line is that by 2020, state law will require all Vermonters to separate organic food waste from their trash and recyclables. Whether you want to learn about the basics of composting or learn something more in depth, the Master Gardener program is offering the Vermont Master Composter program beginning in late September. For an introduction, here's UVM horticulture specialist Leonard Perry.
The Master Composter program, which is part of the Extension Master Gardener program. And with us today to tell us more about this program as well as composting in general is Ron Hebert. Thank you so much, Ron, for being with us today.
Thank you, Leonard, for asking me to be part of this program.
Well, I know you've been doing composting for many years and done training with this Master Composter program. Just what is that program?
Well, UVM Extension has created the Master Composter program to train volunteers with the knowledge and resources to teach others about composting, to become, I think, highly knowledgeable resource persons for their friends, for their schools, for their communities. And the concept of composting, of course, is recycling or returning organic material back to nature, to mimic nature, to work with nature and not control nature.
Tell us about what you do here at Rutland in the fair.
We've been making compost here at this composting site for, oh gosh, I think about 10 years now. And we've certainly trained a lot of people. We use a thermophilic or hot composting method here because it has the advantage of producing a lot of quality compost in just a few weeks. The extensive gardens here at the fair require a lot of compost on a regular basis, and thermophilic composting is the best program for us here.
And thermophilic actually means just using heat?
Meaning hot compost, yes.
As opposed to mine, which is, I'd call it, a kind of a passive system. You just throw things in and hopefully it composts eventually. Yes.
The soil is alive and it's an ecosystem of its own. It's full of living organisms that interact chemically and biologically to promote soil health and productivity. I think when we start to appreciate the living quality of compost and realize what a complex and dynamic substance it is, we begin to treat it differently and in a more ecologically sound way, and we do that with compost.
Obviously there's a lot more, and hopefully people can come by and visit with you here at the Vermont State Fair in Rutland. So thanks again for your time.
Thank you. Been a pleasure, Leonard.
And to learn more about the Master Composter program, you can visit the website uvm.edu/mastergardener or call the number 802-656-9562.
Well, our thanks to Leonard and Ron for that introduction. To find out more, I'm joined by the state coordinator of the Master Gardener program, Brett Halverson. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
So what's the connection between Master Gardener and Master Composter?
So both the Master Gardener and the Master Composter programs are courses that are offered by UVM Extension. And they're for individuals who want to learn about these topics but also are interested in volunteering to give back to their community after the courses.
Mm-hmm. And so what are the benefits of composting?
So municipal composting is really beneficial because it diverts waste from landfills, and that reduces groundwater and air pollution from the methane gas that comes from compost or from food scraps. And when it's used in gardens, compost also amends the soil, so it provides, it adds nutrients to your garden. It provides organic matter, and it also helps to improve the soil by adding texture and drainage and encouraging beneficial bacteria.
So one of the things we need to think about is that this isn't waste anymore, this is a resource.
Right, exactly.
One of the key things that people need to know up front is that the Master Compost course is an online course. Why online?
Well, the mission of UVM Extension is to make university resources available to folks all over the state, both in rural and urban areas. And so the idea is that the online platform provides a cost-effective way for us to reach folks all across the state.
So this isn't hands-on per se?
It's not, but it's a great way for folks who are maybe don't have a background in agriculture, who want to learn the principles of soil science and composting, to learn the theories and the principles behind it.
And so what are some of the things that people will encounter when they take this course?
So as far as topics?
Yep, some of the things they'll be doing.
So they'll be learning about soil biology, soil and decomposition science, recipe design, how to build a compost bin, how to manage diseases, and how to use the compost on site, as well as how to troubleshoot things that may arise in the process.
What kind of a time commitment is this to take this course?
So it's a 6-week course, and it starts on September 26th, and it goes until October 31st.
And so it's important that you have your own computer.
It is, yeah. So you should be able to manage all of the online processes that we use for the class. So you should be able to get on the internet, have a high-speed connection. You should be able to use a webcam, and you should be able to do online video conferencing and feel comfortable with those processes.
And so what are some of the other key details of the course?
So the course is online, but it does have an interactive component. So we use what's called a flipped classroom model, which you watch the lectures ahead of time at your own convenience, but then you attend 4 live question and answer sessions where you're online with the instructors and you're able to ask questions about the material and really dive deeper into the material with those instructors face to face.
And that's held usually from 6 to 7 on 4 Tuesday evenings, is that correct?
Yeah, so it's 4 Tuesday evenings in a row that the online Q&A sessions happen, but the course stretches over 6 weeks.
So tell us about some of the specific topics.
So it really is an introduction. So it starts with an introduction to composting, and then it gets into soil decomposition and ecology, and looks at all of the critters in the soil and kind of what makes compost happen. And then looks at site design. So how do you design your composting system? What type of system do you choose? And how do you manage that over time?
And so who are some of the people that should be taking this course?
So this is a great course as an introduction to composting. So if you are interested in learning about composting as the state moves to mandatory composting in 2020, it's a great way to learn about how to do it in your backyard. Or if you are managing a compost system at your workplace, so if you work for a school or a state park, and you have to manage a composting system there, this would be a great way to get an introduction of how to do that.
And also, too, I'd imagine a lot of businesses who have cafeterias or have people who bring their lunches in, obviously, are going to need to think about that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And so who teaches the Master Composter course?
So we have 4 instructors. We have Mike Ather from Backyard Wilderness, Wendy Sue Harper, who's a former UVM professor and does some consulting work, and then Natasha Duarte, who's the director of the Compost Association of Vermont. And then we also have Athena Bradley, who works for the Northeast Recycling Council.
And so tell me a little bit about, again, when the course starts and what does someone need to do to sign up for the course?
So the course starts on September 26th, but the registration deadline is September 15th. And if you would like more information, you can go to our website, which is www.uvm.edu/mastergardener. And if you click on the Master Composter course, you'll find all the details there.
Tell us, too, a little bit about the importance of compost. I mean, when you talk about gardening and amending the soils, how important is that?
It's very important. It's a great way to have a more nutrient-rich garden, and compost really adds nutrients. It increases the soil biology, and it also adds aeration in the soil. So it's a great way to add nutrients and soil fertility to your garden.
You know, practically, I think when people were thinking about this particular bill becoming law, they thought, oh my goodness, how am I going to, another thing to do, I've got to separate But it's really just kind of getting into the habit of doing it. I mean, we recycle plastics and everything else.
Right, yeah, and there'll be lots of different options for folks who maybe don't have the capacity to compost themselves. There'll be community composting sites and waste haulers that will also be available to take waste away for people who don't have the capacity on site.
There's also another class taking place this fall as well.
Yeah, so for folks who are in the greater Chittenden County area, we have a class called Act 148. That is a partnership with a UVM professor, Dr. Andrew Kryov, and it's held at the high school in Heinsberg, CVU, and it adds a hands-on project component to the course. So you can also get your Master Composter certification while at the same time doing some hands-on projects where you're learning about composting and working with folks in the local composting industry.
So if you want to, for your community, start a program itself, this would be a good option for someone to do that.
Right, yeah, it's a great option for somebody that lives in the Chittenden County area that's willing to drive and is willing to do a little bit longer course that's a little bit more expensive. It's 10 weeks and really wants that hands-on component doing projects in the local area.
Now, we were getting ready for this program. I noticed that there were a lot of great resources about composting on your website. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we do have some resources on our website that have to do with building compost bins and site design and some introductory information about how to get going on compost systems.
What do you think is the biggest question that people have about composting?
That's a great question. I think often it's just about what can be composted and what are the best methods for the different types of food scraps that people might get.
And so the bottom line is whether or not you're on board with this, the law does require residential composting by 2020.
It does, yeah. So the Universal Recycling Act that was passed in 2012 is being phased in with different components, and the final phase of that is that food scraps will be diverted from the landfill by July of 2020.
And once again, folks who should be thinking about maybe putting in a system include just about every business that has employees that bring lunches or schools.
Yeah, definitely. Every business, state agencies, state parks, schools, and residents who are or neighborhoods or even community gardens that want to get together and do composting.
And once again, talk a little bit about the benefits, particularly for the environment, of mandatory composting and composting food scraps.
Sure, yeah, it has huge benefits for the environment. As I mentioned, food scraps produce, when they go to the landfill, they produce a lot of methane gas, and that contributes significantly to climate change. So this is going to be reducing our impact on that as a state, which is very important.
Now, do Master Gardeners get lots of questions about composting and about how this is going to work?
They do, yeah. So Master Gardeners are another great audience for this class because Master Gardeners often have to field questions at farmers markets about composting, or the Master Gardeners that work our helpline often get questions about it as well. So it's another great audience for this class.
And tell us a little bit about Master Gardeners, and once they go through the Master Gardener course, some of the things that they do, because there's a lot of volunteerism.
There is, yeah. So for both Master Gardener and Master Composter, there's an optional track that you can choose if you want to give back to your community, which requires volunteer service hours after the course. And the idea is that you go out and give back to the community by teaching others about these topics. So composting in particular is a really important outreach activity that we're hoping people would like to do, because it will help to reach all of the folks out there that need to learn about this before the law is enacted.
Because the law will affect everybody in every community.
It will, yeah.
Okay, so again, the Master Composter course starts September 26th. If someone is interested, what should they do, Brett?
So they should go to our website, www.uvm.edu/mastergardener, and you'll find information right on the homepage for Master Composter, and just click there, and all the course details are there.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. We'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.